All right, so factoring a univariate polynomial meaning one variable by grouping, I'm not really going to be particular as to whether or not you use grouping. These are the 4-term problems. And you can, by grouping, would be where we're doing 2 things at a time, or we could do the reverse area method. We're going to show you both ways with these problems. Either way is perfectly fine. So if we do grouping, it is 2 terms at a time. I like to give myself enough room. We are going to do for each one, we need a GCF. So with this first group, what I can pull out of 9 and 15 is a 3. They both have W's, and the smallest exponent on them is I could pull out a 2W from each one. So for this first group, I'm going to pull out the GCF. I have to write it, 3W squared, and then I'm going to reduce each one. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And I have 3 W's on top, 2 W's on bottom. 3 minus 2 is just 1. So this is going to be 3W. I have a negative 15 divided by 3. That is going to give me a negative 5. And my W squares are going to cancel out. So that is that first group. The second group, I'm going to do a slightly different color. We'll try this one. I am starting with a negative. Anytime I am factoring and I am pulling out, I start with a negative term. I want that to be part of my GCF, so I'm going to take out a negative. And between 21 and 35, if I cannot remember them, I would do 21 is 1 times 21. 2 doesn't go in there, 3 times 7. And 4 doesn't go in there, 5 doesn't go in there, 6 doesn't go in there. I'm back to 7. Those are all my factors of 21. 35 is 1 and 35. 2 doesn't go in there, 3 doesn't go in there, 4, 5, and 7. Looking at those 2 lists, my biggest number is 7. So I'm going to divide out a negative 7 from both of these. And then I don't have letters for both of them, so all I can take out is that negative 7. So I'm going to be writing my GCF, so minus negative 7, and then I have to reduce these fractions. A negative 21 divided by negative 7, this just becomes a 3. I still have that W. Positive 35 divided by negative 7 is a negative 5. Looking at my 2 problems that I have, the 2 terms now, so I went from 4 terms to 2 terms. I am looking at these. They have that parenthesis group together. So this is 3W minus 5 is my GCF for this. 3W minus 5. So I'm going to pull that out. Remember, write your GCF. 3W minus 5. And then they cancel out for each fraction. I have a 3W squared. And I have a negative 7. So that is factored using the grouping method that they're talking about with this. All right, so the other way that I could do it, because it's 4 terms, I can make a box and think the area method. I will make my box. This is method 2. There are 4 terms, so I'm going to make it even. There are 4 boxes. And then what I'm going to do is put the first term has to go in the first box, or I would like it, so 9W cubed. The last term has to go in the last box. And then I can put the other 2 wherever I want in there. I'm going to put it just, I'm going to go across. So minus 15W squared and minus 21W. Now, when I'm using the area method to factor a trinomial, it is the same deal of I'm still doing GCFs. I want a GCF going this way, and I want a GCF going this way. And remember, if they're starting with a negative, I would be pulling out a negative as well. So if I'm going up and down between 9 and negative 21, I know 3 goes into both of them. The top box is the positive, so I'm not going to do the negative. So 9, and then between the W cubed and W is I can pull out a W. So I have a 3W. The next column, I have a negative 15 and a 35. The biggest number that goes into both of those is 5, and I'm starting with a negative, so I'm going to divide out a -5. That's a GCF. And they don't have anything else in common. The top box has a W, the bottom does not. So that is all I can pull out here. And then going across the first row, between 9W cubed and -15W squared, I can pull out a 3 and a W squared. And then between -21W and 35, I can pull out a -7. There is no letters between, and it has to be the negative because the first box was a negative. If I'm looking at my outside edges, this is my binomials that I have. So my final answer would be 3W squared, squared, minus 7 times 3W minus 5, which is the same answer. The parentheses are just written in reverse order. You can, since I'm multiplying, I could put either one first. Same answer, both ways to do it. It's just a matter of how you like it and which way makes more sense for you. Just watch your signs. Both ways are perfectly valid. So we have another one written out just because I'm going to start with the area method with my box. And we're going to put in our numbers. So I'm not reading through my mess of writing stuff. Remember, the first term has to go in the first box. So this is 2y cubed. Last term has to go in this bottom right box, so that's a -2. Remember to keep your signs. And then I'm going to do it here, 4y squared and a -y. Looking at my terms, we're doing GCF both directions, so going up and down between 2y cubed and 4y squared, I can pull out a 2y squared. I didn't want that color. I really want that a different color. So we'll change that. We'll do that. So this is 2y squared. A negative, remember there's a coefficient of 1 and a -2. There isn't really anything to pull out. There is a negative that I have to pull out. I have to pull something, and if nothing matches, the most I can pull out is a 1. So in this case, it's going to be a -1 because I'm starting with a negative. Going across the first row, looking at the 2y cubed and the -y, all I can pull out here is a y. The bottom row, between the 4y squared and the -2, all I can pull out is a 2, and it's a +2 because I started with a positive. So my answer for this one is going to be 2y squared minus 1 times y plus 2. Now I should get it the same answer if I do my grouping. Remember, 2 terms at a time. Give yourself room to write, and we're going to do the GCFs. Looking at that, between 2y cubed and 4y squared, I can pull out a 2 and a y squared, 2y squared. Write your GCF, 2y squared. Simplify each fraction, so 2's cancel out, and you will have 3 minus 2, so you have y. 4 divided by 2 is 2. The y squareds cancel out, so plus 2. From the second group, it is starting with a negative, so I have to pull out a negative. There is nothing in common with them except for I can pull out a 1 because the coefficient of that -1, then -y is 1. So I'm pulling out the negative, and it's a 1 because there's nothing else that I can do. And so -1 was my GCF, and I'm dividing them out. Negative divided by negative is positive, so I have a y. -2 divided by -1 is positive 2. When I'm looking at this problem, my parentheses match, so that will be my GCF, y plus 2. We're dividing it out of both of them, y plus 2. So write your GCF, which is going to be y plus 2. Okay, reduce your fractions. I am left with a 2y for the first term. And reduce my fractions. I'm left with a -1 in the second term. So I have the same 2 parentheses factors. They're in different orders. It doesn't really matter which one's first. Usually I like to have the higher exponent one first, but that is how I can do it either by grouping or the area method grouping.